Have you ever dared to believe that $50 million, 0 cents, is already yours? Not in some far-off future, but right now, simply waiting for you to claim it? In this powerful revelation, we'll explore how the $50 million, 0 cents, you desire already exists, how the law of assumption can open the door, and how your imagination is not just fantasy, it is the creative power of God. If you've ever wondered how to truly manifest wealth, then stay with me, because what you're about to hear could shift your reality forever. Many years ago, I was sitting in a small room with barely enough to pay my rent. I had no visible source of income, no investments, and certainly no connections to great wealth. But I knew something others did not. I knew that consciousness is the only reality, and I began to live as though the money I desired, in this case $50 million, 0 cents, was already mine. I did not merely wish. I assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I walked, talked, breathed, and slept in the consciousness of being a man who already possessed that wealth. Not because I was lying to myself, but because I understood that imagination is the only substance of reality. In my mind, I held the check, I signed the deals, I watched the numbers increase in my account, but most importantly, I felt the freedom, the peace, the joy of already having it. That inner reality became so vivid, so alive, that it began to outpicture itself in my outer world. Consciousness is the only reality. What you accept inwardly manifests outwardly. $50 million, 0 cents, is not created, it's assumed. Wealth already exists in the infinite field of possibilities. Imagination is the divine act of creation. Every dollar begins in the unseen realm of the mind. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Feel wealthy now, and the world will reflect it. There is no power outside of you. Your reality is a mirror of your inner state. Do not strive, accept. The more you chase, the more it eludes you. Your desire is proof of its possibility. You would not desire it if it were impossible. Persist in the assumption. The outer world bends to the inner conviction. Everything you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality. Not figuratively, not philosophically, but literally. The entire world is yourself pushed out. There is no power outside of your awareness of being. What you accept as true of yourself becomes your experience. It is folly to look at circumstances, at bank accounts, at the appearance of lack, and believe these to be the cause of anything. They are shadows, echoes, reflections, lifeless unless animated by the spirit within you. All events, conditions, and people are merely the outpicturing of states of consciousness. You are not at the mercy of the world. The world is at the mercy of your inner assumptions. Begin not with action, begin with awareness. The assumption that consciousness creates reality is not mere speculation. It is the operating principle of life. If you believe yourself to be poor, to be in lack, to be struggling, then no matter how hard you work or how fervently you pray, you are merely reinforcing the state you occupy. But the moment you shift in consciousness, the very moment you feel yourself to be abundant, to be secure, to be in possession of wealth, then and there, the world must change to reflect that new arrangement. The great error is to believe that life is happening to you. It is not. Life is happening through you. The rich man, the successful woman, the fortunate child, they are not lucky. They are simply dwelling in a state of consciousness that naturally produces their results. You too can dwell there, not by striving, not by external manipulation, but by the quiet inner knowing that what you accept as true in your imagination must externalize. The first act, therefore, is not to hustle, but to still yourself, to close your eyes to appearances and enter the secret place, your imagination. There you assume the feeling of already being what you desire to be, Not wishful thinking, not fantasy, but inner conviction, and you persist, not because you are trying to create it, but because you already are it. In the world of consciousness, there is no time, only states, and you are always occupying one. A man may say, "But I am in debt," and he speaks truth of his present state. But it is not the ultimate truth. His debt is a visible expression of an inner belief. He has believed in limitation, in insufficiency, and the world has obeyed. The good news is that he can believe differently. He can awaken to a greater truth, that he is not defined by what his senses report, but by what he accepts in consciousness. And what he accepts as true becomes true. Even now you are creating your world. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Every thought you think with feeling, every inner conversation you carry on as though it were real, is the seed of a future event. When you walk by faith, you no longer consult the evidence of the senses. You consult the feeling within. You ask not what is true out there, but what am I accepting as true in here? To understand that consciousness is the only reality is to take full responsibility for your life. Not blame, for blame belongs to those who see others as cause, but responsibility, the ability to respond consciously. You are the operant power. You are the dreamer of the dream, and the world is your dream made visible. You must become radically honest with yourself and ask, what am I entertaining in the privacy of my mind? For that is the womb of creation. Do you think thoughts of wealth and plenty, but feel anxious and undeserving? Then it is the feeling that will prevail. You must become the person who is already in possession of the thing desired, and not just for a moment, but until it feels natural, until you no longer try to have it. You simply are it. You do not need to beg for what is already yours. You only need to awaken to the truth that it is yours. And when you do, the outer world reorganizes itself, often in ways you could never have predicted. Opportunities arrive, people move, events unfold, but these are not your doing. They are the natural consequence of your inner assumption. When the truth of this is fully realized, you will cease to try to fix the world and instead fix your attention. You will no longer argue with facts, for you know they are simply the harvest of earlier states. Instead, you will revise, imagine anew, and persist in that which you now claim as your reality. You are not meant to struggle, but to choose, not meant to strive, but to awaken. And when you awaken to the truth that consciousness is the only reality and your assumptions are seeds, you will become deliberate in your inner conversations, careful with your moods, and intentional in your focus. For you will know that what you think of yourself, your self-concept, is the script the world will follow. You are not waiting on the world is waiting on you to decide, to assume, and to persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You do not create $50 million 0 cents. You do not earn it, build it, or attract it by force. You assume it. In the infinite storehouse of the unseen, all things already are. Every fortune, every success, every expression of abundance exists in finished form, not in the outer world, but in the world within, which is the only true and living substance. You do not need to make money real, it already is. What you must do is occupy the state where its possession feels natural. Money is not something to pursue. That which is pursued flees. The very act of pursuit implies its absence. But when you assume the end, when you feel, even in the silence of your own being, that it is already yours, then you are no longer chasing wealth, you are revealing it. You must understand there is no creating in the sense most people believe. Creation is finished. All states exist. Just as you do not create music when you play it on a piano, the keys already exist, so too you do not create wealth. You simply move to the point where the melody of abundance is already being played through your experience. You do this through assumption. Assumption is not idle wishing. It is not daydreaming without conviction. Assumption is deliberate. It is an act of faith, not blind, but inner knowing. It is the acceptance of a reality not yet seen, simply because you have claimed it within. To assume something means to take it upon yourself, to wear it, to walk in it, to live from it as though it were already fact. When you assume the state of wealth, you are not denying your current outer circumstances, you are transcending them. You are refusing to let them dictate your inner condition, and because the inner world rules the outer, the world must conform to your assumption. Suppose you desire to experience $50 million, 0 cents. Do not concern yourself with how, that is not your role. Your only responsibility is to move inwardly to the place where that amount, or the freedom and expression it symbolizes, is already yours. How would you feel? What would you do? How would you walk, speak, dress, think, if tonight you knew, not hoped, but truly knew that this sum of money was already in your possession? How different would your inner dialogue be? Would you worry? Would you feel lack? Would you doubt your ability to meet your needs? Of course not. You would be calm, confident, certain. So assume that feeling now, not tomorrow, not after the evidence appears, but now. Because in truth, the evidence will only appear after the assumption is made real within. The mind must dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled before the body and world respond. Many wait for outer proof before they believe, but that is not the law. The law is to believe first, assume first, and let the proof follow. And it always follows, for the world cannot resist the power of a sustained inner conviction. Let me tell you this. All you will ever need or desire already exists, but it is inaccessible until you match its frequency. This is not fantasy, it is law. A radio cannot receive a frequency it is not tuned to. Likewise, you cannot experience a state you are not in harmony with. You do not wait for the money to arrive in order to feel wealthy. You feel wealthy, so the money must appear. This is why so many fail in their attempts to manifest. They try to bring about change through willpower, through physical effort, through struggle. But they do not change their concept of self. They still see themselves as someone who is trying rather than someone who already is. And as long as you try, you have not assumed. Assumption is quiet, effortless in appearance, yet powerful beyond measure. It does not plead, it does not argue, it accepts. And what it accepts becomes. So when you say $50 million, 0 cents is mine, do not say it as an affirmation to convince yourself. Say it because it is so. Feel it because it is true in the only place that matters, your consciousness. If you make this claim with belief, with acceptance, the world will yield. The people, the opportunities, the ideas, all these are secondary causes. They are mere channels. The true cause is within. The world simply plays its part in the script you have written by your assumptions. You may not know how it will unfold. You may not be able to trace the path in advance, but that is not required. When the actor steps onto the stage, he does not invent the play, he performs it. And so must you. Your assumption is your script. Perform it inwardly, faithfully, and the world will follow suit. Do not wait for signs to feel secure. Feel secure and the signs will come. The $50 million, 0 cents, is not created in the future, it is accepted in the present. You are not building your fortune, you are awakening to it. You are not constructing a new reality, you are shifting into it. Every possible version of your life exists now. The one you live depends entirely on what you assume to be true. So assume boldly, assume quietly, assume with feeling, and watch as life reconfigures itself to mirror your inner claim. Imagination is not a figment of the mind. It is not idle fantasy, nor whimsical escape. It is the very power by which all things are made. It is the divine act of creation, the holy operation through which the invisible becomes visible and the unseen is clothed in form. Whatever you imagine with feeling, you bring into being. The world you walk through is but the evidence of what has been imagined, believed, and sustained in the depths of consciousness. There is no power outside of imagination. All that has ever been created, the wealth of nations, the palaces of kings, the skyscrapers of cities, the songs of poets, and the empires of business, first existed in imagination. Before the hand can build, the mind must see. Before the eye can behold, the heart must feel. It is through imagination that man moves from what is to what can be. If you desire to experience a life of wealth, you must first conceive of yourself as wealthy, not merely wish to be wealthy, but actually become it in imagination. See yourself as you would be seen, walk as you would walk, feel as you would feel. Speak to yourself in silence with the tone of one who possesses it. Let that inner image become more real to you than the outer world. For the outer is delayed reflection, but the inner is core. To imagine is to create, and to imagine rightly is to dwell in the end. Do not imagine as a beggar hoping for scraps. Imagine as one who knows the feast is prepared. Imagine not from desire, but from fulfillment. The moment you move in imagination to the place where the desire is already satisfied, you have performed the creative act. You need no tools, you need no money to begin, you need no permission. Imagination is free, and it is always with you. Every time you close your eyes and feel, truly feel, that which you desire as real, you are shaping substance. That substance, though unseen, is more powerful than iron, more real than stone. It is the root of all that appears. You may ask, but how does this work? It works by law. Just as heat melts ice, or a seed produces after its kind, so imagination produces its likeness. The world responds not to what you want, but to what you imagine, not to your prayers in words, but to your prayers in feeling. For imagination impregnated with belief becomes fact. The world does not change by effort alone. Action without imagination is futile, like laboring in soil without planting a seed. But the moment you impress your desire upon imagination and feel its reality, the seed is sown. Nurture it not with doubt, but with certainty. Feed it not with fear, but with conviction. It will grow, it will unfold, and it will become. Look at your life. What do you see? You are seeing the harvest of your imagination. Every condition, every circumstance, every person playing their role in your story is there because of what you have imagined to be true. This is not cause for regret, but for power. If you imagined unconsciously before, now you may imagine deliberately. Do not be fooled by appearances. They are echoes, shadows, impressions of old assumptions. Change them not by resisting, but by imagining anew. Enter the state that corresponds with your desire and live from that state. Let imagination be your only reality, and the world will rearrange itself around your vision. This is not pretending. Pretending is shallow, it is play without belief. But imagining is deep. It is feeling the truth of something before it is seen. It is knowing within that it must be so, and therefore it is. When you imagine having already received, the heavens move, the way is prepared. That which is yours begins its journey toward you. Do not concern yourself with how. The how is not your domain. Imagination does not consult logic, nor the opinions of others. It does not require circumstances to agree. It only requires your faith, your sustained belief in the unseen reality. Even now you can imagine yourself into a new world. Even now you can assume the life of your desire. Begin where you are. Begin now. In the privacy of your inner chamber, imagine what you would see, hear, feel, if your desire were already fulfilled. Live there. Visit that place so often in imagination that it becomes more familiar than your current reality. And when you open your eyes and nothing yet has changed, do not be discouraged. Know this, it has changed. In the realm of cause, the seed has already been planted. And just as surely as the sun rises, the harvest will come. Imagination is the light that shapes the clay of experience. It is the painter of worlds, the builder of bridges, the scripter of dreams. You cannot rise higher than your imagination allows. But imagine greatly, imagine boldly, imagine persistently, and nothing shall be withheld from you. To live from the end is to abandon the struggle of becoming and step into the peace of already being. It is to walk in the state of fulfillment while the world still whispers of lack. This is not delusion, it is discipline. The divine discipline of assuming the wish fulfilled before it materializes. It is not enough to desire. Desire is the spark, but assumption is the flame. To desire something places it before you, out of reach, a thing hoped for in some distant tomorrow, but to live from the end is to bring that desire into the present, to clothe yourself in the feeling of its reality now. When you live from the end, you act not as one in need, but as one in possession. You do not ask how or when, you accept that it already is. You think, speak, and feel from that place. Your decisions begin to reflect that inner certainty. The world around you may not yet bear witness to your new state, but your inner world has already moved, and the outer must follow. There is no power in wishing alone. Wishing implies separation. You must move from wishing to being. You must dare to say, I am, even when the senses argue otherwise. For the senses will always testify to the past, to the state you are in, but imagination testifies to the present, to the state you now occupy. And what you occupy, you express. To live from the end is to dwell in the experience mentally and emotionally until it becomes your home. You do not visit it occasionally, you reside there. You make it your dwelling place, and from that place all things are added unto you. You speak as one who has, not one who lacks. You think as one who owns, not one who hopes. And because your world is the mirror of your mind, it reflects back the state you have dared to claim. Suppose you desire great wealth. Then you must walk in the world not as one chasing money, but as one whose needs are already met. You must feel the weight of abundance in your heart, the confidence of security in your steps. You must go to sleep not wondering how it will come, but resting in the satisfaction that it is already yours. This is not fantasy. It is faith in its truest form. Faith is not hoping that something will happen. Faith is assuming that it already has. It is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you walk by faith, you reverse the natural order. Instead of letting your senses dictate your inner state, you let your inner state dictate your senses. Living from the end is the secret. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. You cross that bridge not with effort, but with belief. You see what is not yet seen and call it real. You hear what is not yet spoken and call it done. You feel what is not yet formed and call it finished. And because you have dared to live in the end, the means rush to meet you. The world will tell you to work harder, to hustle, to push and pull and strain your way to success. But the inner law speaks differently. It says, go within. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and let the world rearrange itself around your conviction. Do not ask when it will come. Ask only, am I dwelling in the end? If the answer is yes, then you have done all that is required. Let others strive, let others doubt. You will rest, you will persist in the assumption. You will dwell in the end until it is so real to you that even the facts cannot shake it, and in time the facts will bend. The world cannot resist the persistent vision of one who lives from the end. Reality must conform to your inner claim. You may be tempted to look outside and measure your progress by appearances. Do not. Appearances are delayed reflections. They show you what you have been, not what you are becoming. When you see no evidence, persist. When nothing seems to move, persist. When the world laughs, persist. Because the moment you persist in living from the end, the seed is planted, and just as surely as day follows night, the harvest will come. So be still, be bold, be inwardly unwavering. Close your eyes and see the world as it would be if your desire were fulfilled. Hear the congratulations, feel the satisfaction, taste the joy, and then open your eyes and walk in that state. Let the world say what it will. You know the truth that all things exist now, and you need only align with their frequency to experience them. Living from the end is not a technique, it is a way of being. It is to live as though the promise were already kept, to breathe as though the miracle were already manifest. And when you do, life becomes not a problem to solve, but a dream to unfold. The end becomes the beginning, and the journey becomes a celebration of what already is. If you would know the condition of a man, do not ask for his bank balance. Do not examine the numbers on paper, nor the gold that lines his vault. Listen instead to the words he whispers when no one is listening. Listen to his inner speech, the quiet current of conversation that flows beneath the surface of his life. For out of these unspoken dialogues, his world arises. The wealth you see or do not see begins in what is repeated silently, not once or twice, but endlessly in the hidden corridors of the mind. It is not the outer voice that carries power, but the inner one. You speak to yourself all day long. The question is, what are you saying? Are you affirming your lack or your wealth? Are you telling the story of your limitation or rehearsing the truth of your abundance? For whatever you accept as true in these unseen conversations becomes law to your experience. You may try to force success through outer action, but if your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, debt, and delay, then no effort will overcome the tide that your thoughts have already set in motion. You must begin with the understanding that your inner speech is not idle, it is creative, it is formative. Every sentence, every silent phrase impresses itself upon the subconscious and sets the world around you in motion. The subconscious accepts your inner voice as instruction. It does not question whether your thoughts are fantasy or fact. It simply receives and obeys. And so, when you habitually think, I never have enough, or I'm struggling to make ends meet, or wealth is for others, not me, you are not making observations, you are issuing commands. Wealth does not come from wishing, it comes from alignment with wealth consciousness. And that alignment is forged not in your actions alone, but in your conversations with yourself. You must change the speech within before the gold can flow without. This is why it is written, let the weak say, I am strong. It is not that strength is denied by weakness, but that strength is summoned by the word, and so it is with wealth. Let the poor say, I am rich, not to deceive themselves, but to awaken the truth of their being. For the truth is, wealth is not something you attain, it is something you accept. It is a state of consciousness, a vibration of mind, and your inner words are the carriers of that vibration. To dwell in the speech of abundance is to dwell in the reality of it. You do not wait for evidence. You generate it from within, and the world, faithful as ever, reflects the pattern you have established. If you desire $50 million, 0 cents, do not ask where it will come from. Do not measure the gap between where you are and where you long to be. Instead, listen to the tone of your inner voice. Has it changed? Has it become the voice of someone who already possesses it? Is there calm in your inner being, the quiet confidence of one whose needs are met? Or is there still striving, still begging, still rehearsing the narrative of lack? You must revise that script. You must speak within as one who already owns, already enjoys, already is. Speak gently to yourself, but speak truth. If your inner monologue were broadcast aloud for all to hear, would they hear millionaire or a pauper? Would they hear faith or fear? For you cannot deceive the world, you can only deceive yourself for a time. The world, in its infinite patience, simply waits for your assumption to stabilize. Once it does, once your inner speech becomes consistent with wealth, the outer wealth appears effortlessly. This is not a matter of forced affirmations, repeated without belief. It is not enough to chant abundance while your heart repeats the rhythm of worry. You must feel what you say. You must say it inwardly, with conviction, as though you were rehearsing your part in a great drama, and indeed you are. You are the actor, director, and audience all at once, shaping your world by the lines you speak within. Train yourself to hear new things. Let your inner voice say, everything I touch prospers. Opportunities find me easily. I am a steward of great wealth. Money flows to me from seen and unseen sources. At first, these words may feel foreign, they may feel dishonest, but if you persist, they become familiar, and what is familiar becomes natural, and what is natural becomes visible. This is the journey, not from poverty to wealth, but from false speech to true, for the true speech of your being is always abundance. The infinite knows no shortage. It is only man who introduces lack by affirming it again and again in the secrecy of his thoughts. But the moment he changes his speech, the moment he declares that he is and speaks from that declaration, the tides begin to turn. There is no delay in manifestation but the delay caused by doubt, and doubt lives in the voice you hear most often, your own. So change that voice, feed it new words, instruct it to speak from the place where your desire is already fulfilled. Let it tell a new story, a story of expansion, ease, joy, and freedom. Let it declare you rich, not someday, now, not hypothetically, factually. And let that declaration become your new conversation. The world will listen. It always does. There is no power in the world greater than the sustained assumption, for that which is persisted in becomes fact. A single thought may come and go like a shadow across the wall. It may stir you, inspire you briefly, but if it is not planted, if it is not fed by repeated attention, it bears no fruit. Creation does not happen in a flash of hope or in a fleeting moment of desire. It is born from the steady, unwavering assumption that the thing you long for already is. You must understand the assumption of the wish fulfilled is not a momentary imagining, but a dwelling place. It is the inner home of the soul. The assumption must be held, not visited. And it must be held not merely in thought, but in feeling. You must feel yourself to be the thing you seek before the world will reflect it back to you. There are those who imagine great things for a day, a week, even a month, and yet their lives remain unchanged. It is not because the law is broken, but because the assumption was never made permanent. They step into the state briefly, then return to their former dwelling, the familiar land of doubt, fear, and questioning. And so they continue to reap the old harvest, the same old outcomes, because they did not persist. The one who succeeds is not the one who imagines with the greatest intensity, but the one who refuses to let go of the image. He clings to it, not as a desperate man clings to a dream, but as a mother carries her child, with reverence, with certainty, and with love. He returns to it in the morning, he walks with it in the day, he falls asleep with it at night. And because the inner world governs the outer, life must bow to the picture he holds. The world will tempt you to abandon your assumption. It will present facts, reports, obstacles, but you must not waver. All these things are echoes of past beliefs, not indicators of what must be. Facts change when faith persists. The storm may rage, but if you remain centered in the feeling of your fulfilled desire, the storm will pass and the sun will rise over the world you have dared to create. You must learn to believe more in the unseen than in the seen. The unseen is the cause, the seen is the effect. What you persist in assuming, even if all the world denies it, will come to pass. The delay does not mean denial. Delay simply tests your resolve. Will you turn back, or will you continue to walk forward in the invisible until the visible bends to meet you? If you desire wealth, then you must not only imagine it once and wait for signs, you must live in the consciousness of wealth until it feels more real to you than the numbers in your account. You must see yourself as abundant even when the bills come due. You must feel the ease of affluence even when the outer voice says, there is not enough. And if you persist in that feeling, that state of mind, the outer must conform. This is not wishful thinking, this is law. The assumption sustained becomes the reality, and all things are drawn to match the frequency of your persistent thought. Think of the seed that is buried in the soil. It does not break through the surface the moment it is planted, but beneath the ground life is stirring. The roots are reaching. The stalk is pushing upward. And one day the seed becomes the tree, not because of a single act, but because of sustained life from within. Your imagination is that seed, your assumption is the soil, and persistence is the water. You must water the idea daily with faith, with vision, and with inner agreement. You must feed it with your words, your emotions, and your belief. And when doubt whispers in your ear, as it will, you must return again to the assumption, not by force, but by remembrance. I am. This is your truth. Let the world say what it will. Let the news speak of scarcity. Let the experts talk of recession. You are not moved. You are anchored in your knowing. You have claimed your fortune. You have imagined your freedom. You have chosen your identity, and you remain there. This is your act of creation. The difference between the man who dreams and the man who lives his dream is one thing: persistence. The dreamer sees the vision and lets it go. The creator sees the vision and stays with it. He walks with it through darkness, through silence, through doubt, through contradiction. And then, as surely as morning follows night, he walks into its physical form. The outer world may lag, but it cannot resist the pull of a mind that persists in its truth. The assumption held without contradiction must harden into fact. For that which you accept as true and hold to be true becomes your world. So, I say, hold the image, nurture the feeling, do not abandon it when appearances oppose it. Persist in the knowing that what you have assumed is already yours, and the universe, obedient and faithful, will deliver it into form. Imagination is not a mere plaything of the mind. It is not idle fantasy, nor is it some fleeting indulgence reserved for children or artists. Imagination is the creative power that forms reality. It is the very substance of life itself. Everything you see, touch, and call real was once imagined. Before there was a chair, there was the idea of a chair. Before there was a city, there was the dream of a city. Before the world you now experience unfolded around you, it lived within you. In the invisible realm of imagination, there is no power outside of imagination. It is the first cause, the root, the source of all that is. To imagine a thing is to set it in motion. To persist in the imagining is to give it form. And to accept the imagined state as reality is to draw it forth from the unseen into the seen. When this is truly understood, man begins to look not to the world but to himself, to his own consciousness as the author of his life. You may say, but I am surrounded by things I never wished for. How could I have imagined this? And I say to you, all that you accept as true, all that you believe, all that you fear, all that you dwell upon, this too is imagination. Imagination is not confined to conscious visualization. It includes every reaction, every emotion, every internal dialogue. If you feel lack, even without words, you are imagining it. If you fear failure, you are imagining it. If you habitually accept limitation, then that too is imagination at work, for you are giving life to that which you inwardly entertain. Imagination is always creating. The only question is, what are you imagining? Are you using this sacred power to bind yourself or to liberate yourself? Are you imagining the life you desire or rehearsing the one you dread? You cannot serve two masters. You must choose what you will animate, what you will give life to in the theater of your mind. For that theater is not fiction, it is the blueprint of your future. It is not the world that defines you, but the image you hold within. The outer world is simply the echo of the inner one. Change the image, and the echo changes. Transform the seed, and the fruit must follow. You may not see the change instantly, for time is the servant of imagination, not its master. The delay is never denial. It is the gestation period of belief becoming flesh. You have been taught to revere facts. You have been taught to measure and evaluate and base your sense of reality upon what is visible. But the visible is the shadow of the invisible. It is the reflection, not the cause. Reality is not what your eyes see, but what your soul feels and knows. If you will dare to walk by this knowing, if you will dare to imagine boldly and accept that inner state as real, you will reshape your entire world. There are those who dream of wealth, but cannot imagine themselves wealthy. There are those who desire freedom, yet live in the constant imagining of bondage. To want a thing is not enough. You must assume its reality. You must enter the state imaginatively and live from it, not merely in moments of stillness, but in the rhythm of your days. When the world tells you otherwise, you must remember that the world is the servant of imagination, not the master. It is imagination that built the pyramids. It is imagination that crossed the oceans and reached the moon. Every invention, every discovery, every movement of man has sprung from this invisible power. And yet the greatest miracle of all is not in shaping the outer world, but in the transformation of the inner man. When imagination is mastered, when it is harnessed, not to repeat the past, but to create the future, man becomes free. You must learn to trust your imagination more than your senses. You must dare to call the unseen real and the seen temporary. The body may tell you one thing, the bank account another. But if imagination tells you it is done, then it is done. Hold that image, nurture it. Let it become more vivid, more detailed, more alive than the so-called facts around you. For these facts are only the crystallized thoughts of yesterday. If you can see yourself now in possession of that which you desire, if you can walk through the rooms of your imagined home, speak from the position of your accomplished dream, feel the joy of already having, then you have touched reality. That is truth. That is power. That is where all things begin. The world will adjust. It must. When you rise each day, ask not what is happening in the world. Ask instead, what am I imagining today? For this is your true work, to govern your mind, to direct your inner speech, to feel the fulfillment before it appears. All else is commentary. All else is reaction. Imagination alone is creation. You do not need to earn this power. You were born with it. You do not need permission to use it. You use it now, every moment, whether you realize it or not. The invitation is only this: become conscious of your imagination. Use it with intention. Use it with faith. Use it with love. And you will see that what you imagine persistently and faithfully must become the world in which you live. There is a doorway through which all things pass into being. It is not thought alone, nor willpower, nor effort that opens this gate. It is feeling. The world you see around you is the reflection not of what you merely think, but of what you feel to be true. Thought sets the direction, but it is feeling that gives it life. It is the depth of feeling that impresses itself upon the subconscious, and the subconscious in turn moves heaven and earth to express that which has been felt as real. Every man is rich in proportion to what he has allowed himself to feel deeply. It is not enough to say the words, "I am wealthy." It is not enough to visualize the image of wealth. Until the heart burns with the sensation of already being that which is imagined, there is no creation, there is only hope. And hope, though noble, is passive. Feeling is active. Feeling takes the dream out of imagination and plants it into the fertile soil of being. You must feel it to be true, not in some future time, not when the facts align, but now, this very moment. Feel yourself already in possession of what you seek. Let the senses within you awaken. Let the inner world become more vivid than the outer one. Can you feel the texture of wealth, the ease of it, the calm certainty of knowing your supply is infinite? Can you feel the joy of health, the strength of vitality moving through your limbs? Not merely think of these things, but feel them as though they were your very condition. This is the creative act. This is the secret. The world bows not to your wishes, but to your assumptions. And assumptions are made real by feeling. When you feel something to be true, when your entire being agrees with the thing imagined, then the seed is planted and life begins to organize itself around it. You may wonder why certain things persist in your life, why lack continues, why conflict repeats, why certain conditions seem to hold you in place. And I tell you, it is because you continue to feel them. You feel poor, you feel uncertain, you feel small, and though you say you desire more, you continue to carry within you the emotional signature of limitation. And as long as that feeling remains, it must clothe itself in facts. But when you change the feeling, when you shift from I want to I am, from I lack to I have, then you begin to see transformation. And not slowly, but with a grace and speed that defies logic. For feeling does not wait upon conditions, it creates them. It moves before the evidence and calls forth that which is unseen. You need not force the feeling, you only need to allow it. Sit quietly and bring to mind your desire fulfilled. Do not observe it as something distant, but enter into it. Feel its reality. Feel what it would be like were it already done. What would you wear? How would you walk? What conversations would you have? And above all, how would you feel? Let that feeling flood your being. Let it rise and let it rest. For it is in the stillness that feeling takes root. There is a sacred silence between the thought and the form, and in that silence, feeling whispers its command to the subconscious, which receives it without judgment and begins to shape the world accordingly. Do not worry if the world does not change instantly. Do not seek signs or confirmation. Remain faithful to the feeling, and the world will conform. It must, for it is law. Do not confuse emotion with feeling. Emotion is reactive, stirred by external events. But feeling, in this sacred sense, is creative, chosen from within. You can choose the feeling of wealth even when your purse is empty. You can choose the feeling of freedom even when the facts say otherwise. And the moment you do, the facts begin to change. You may say, but I have felt abundance, and still the bills came due. And I say, perhaps you touched the feeling briefly, then returned to doubt. Perhaps you felt the wish fulfilled in one moment, but denied it the next. The law requires consistency. The seed must remain in the soil. If you remove it each day to check its growth, it will not take root. So too must your feeling remain undisturbed. Let it rest in you. Let it abide. Feeling is not to be forced, but cultivated. You cultivate it through repetition, through inner stillness, through surrender. You cultivate it by loving the state you seek to embody, by allowing it to become your natural dwelling, not a fleeting guest. And when the feeling becomes natural, effortless, when you no longer try to feel it, but simply do, then manifestation is at hand. Everything you see began with a feeling. Every condition you live in is the echo of something once felt to be true. Change the feeling and you change the outcome. Do not seek the thing, seek the feeling of the thing. Rest in it, trust it, and watch as the world reshapes itself around your inner conviction. For feeling, quietly and faithfully held, is the secret to all creation. You stand at the threshold of infinite possibility, not because the world has changed, but because you have. What once seemed far, the $50 million, 0 cents dream, the freedom, the peace, the joy, now draws near, not by effort or struggle, but by inner knowing. For everything you seek is already yours. In the dimension of imagination, the only requirement is that you accept it, feel it, live from it. You have been shown the door, the law of assumption, the creative power of persistent vision, the truth that imagination is not mere fantasy but the first cause of all. You have come to understand that your inner world is the master and the outer world its obedient servant. And more than that, you have come to know that feeling is the secret. It is through feeling that the invisible becomes flesh, the imagined becomes form, and the unseen becomes seen. Do not look to the world for signs of change. The world will change because you have changed. Persist in your assumption. Return to it again and again. Let the truth of your desire saturate your inner conversations, your sleep, your reactions, and your expectations. Assume boldly. Feel deeply. Walk by faith, not by sight. For the riches you seek are not in the future. They are in your present assumption. You are the operant power. You are the creator in the midst of creation. And now, with the law firmly planted in your heart, you can move into the feeling of the wish fulfilled and remain there. For that place, that state, that inner sanctuary is the secret chamber where miracles are born. So be not the one who merely hears these words, be the one who lives them. Dwell in the state of the already fulfilled and let the world rise to meet the vision you now carry. For when you assume it fully, when you feel it as real, it is done. And the world without fail will echo back the truth of what you dared to believe.